everybody. So this is very exciting. Today I am recording for you guys my best of almost list. So these were the tough cuts that I debated and debated. I find rankings extremely stressful, and I really liked all of these movies so much that it was very difficult to leave them off my top 15. But I thought I'd do a whole separate video on my almost as good. That's what you get, and you're going to get the top 15 list also very soon. So let's talk about my almost top 15 list. Number 30, I have Isle of Dogs. I loved the animation in this movie. I loved the backgrounds, especially. I thought were incredible. If it were up to me, I would nominate it for production design because I think the attention to detail was so amazing. I particularly loved the background with the glass bottles. Also, any of the backgrounds in Japan were incredible. And I also just loved the whole story with the dogs. I thought was so sweet and so lovely. Some of the stuff with the humans wasn't my favorite. I didn't really like that foreign exchange student. She was not my favorite. I think that it is a lovely part of 2018 animation. So really, really enjoyed it. All right, number 29, I have The Hate U Give. I think they took a novel that was good, and I think that they did a great job adapting it. They made very few changes, as far as I could see, at least. And I think that they managed to tell a nuanced sort of story about a family that felt real. I really connected with the whole family. I felt like they really were a family. Like, it was very well done, very well cast. Regina Hall is great. I liked Amanda Steinberg. She was great. The whole cast was just phenomenal. I liked how they made at least an attempt to show the different sides. Her uncle's the cop. His perspective was interesting. I thought it was very moving at the end when she's on the top of that car protesting. It worked for me. I really thought it was a very, very good movie, and a very important movie to talk with your kids about some of these issues in a way that won't be too traumatizing for them. It was a good one. Some of the stuff with her high school wasn't my favorite, but it was also not my favorite of the book. But I still really enjoyed the movie. Number 28, I have Creed 2. I think it's definitely one of the more underrated movies of the year. I thought it was super satisfying. Like, yeah, it's formulaic, but like, it's a formula I really like. And I thought all the acting was great. And I thought that the whole build up to the final fight was really good, because I was honestly not sure who was going to win. And I was okay with that. I was okay with either of them winning, because I thought they developed the characters really well. The Dragos were, I thought, written really well. And I was very impressed by that. I thought that was really good. I really don't think they should make a Creed 3. I feel like this is a very good place to end it. They probably will. But I don't know. I felt the closure that I need, I guess, for Creed 2. Number 27, I have Makia, When the Promised Flower Blooms. And this is a very ambitious film. If you like fantasy, you should see it, because Mirai Okada created an entire fantasy world with lore, and normally that's not my thing, but the thing I liked about this movie was that it really wasn't about fantasy, because that's boring to me. What it was about is a girl becoming a mother and learning to love, and she's this immortal girl, so her child is growing, and she's staying the same. And so that's interesting too. The other characters worked for me. I loved the music. I loved the animation. Was gorgeous. Really a hidden gem from this year that you should check out. Number 26, I have A Quiet Place. This movie got me so wound up in the theater that when I left, I was walking out of the theater, and somebody was like sort of taking a drink from the fountain, and they kind of popped up, and I went, when they did that, I was like, ah! Because I don't know, it just did such a good job. I thought this movie was just winding me up, and it's really about a family when it comes down to it. And I thought it was very well done. And yeah, like when you start to think about it, you're like, what, does this work? But if you just enjoy the experience, it really worked for me. So I have that at 26. Number 25, I Bumblebee. I absolutely thought this was a delightful film. I loved Haley Steinfeld. I loved the whole tone and feel of it. I thought it was very charming. Like, this is one that I can definitely picture rewatching. I'm definitely going to get it on Blu-ray. It was just charming. There's just no other way to describe it. I've wanted the Transformers movies to be good for a long time, and this just made me very happy that it was good. And I think he did a great job. I mean, I've always impressed when people get sort of what I call a kit to a franchise, and they do something really great with that kit. Like, people, right? Because I think that takes a certain, like, yeah, I love like these super, super original films are amazing, but I also, something like Mackay, that's amazing, but there's also something I think special about a really well executed formula film, and this was to me. I really enjoyed it. So I have it at 25. Number 24, I have Eighth Grade. Really loved this movie. If middle school is so hard, and this movie really shows it, and Elsie Fisher was just phenomenal. I thought it was funny, but still like poignant and sincere. I don't think that it's one of those teenage movies that's just like sullen and miserable, which I hate those kind of movies. This had enough sort of humor, enough positivity to work for me, and I just really thought the script was great, and I think that the way that it captures being a small YouTuber was just like really good, and the way that she's sort of giving advice to people that she's not actually like living that advice was quite brilliant, and I really enjoyed it. Number 23, I have Straight Out of Strangers. This movie just blew me away. I left the theater just like, I just couldn't believe I kept myself very unspoiled, and every step of the way, I just was more and more shocked, and more just like, I couldn't believe that this was real. It was just unbelievable. It was like with every emotion in this documentary, like I was shocked, I was laughing, I was crying. It was phenomenal. And so number 22, I have Game Night. I thought Game Night was hilarious. There's so many scenes that are just so funny, and it really captures that spirit of like being really competitive at games, which I think a lot of families can relate to. Certainly I can relate to that with my family for sure. And also just sort of that, I think it captures really well that sort of desire as an adult to kind of try to find friends and make friends and have, like, it's hard, and there's a lot of characters that kind of are sort of poking fun at that, like, desire that we have as older people to kind of make friends, but it sort of feels a little bit artificial, but it's like, you got to do something and you got to try, because otherwise you're just going to be lonely, and you don't want that. And they captured the dynamic really well. And there were so many scenes that I was just laughing. And so it totally did its job. And I love Kyle Chandler in this movie. I just love, because I'm used to seeing him in movies like Carol, things like that. And this, it's just like, he was so funny, I thought. So great job. 22. Number 21, I have The Night is Short, Walk On Girl. This is a anime film that's unlike any other anime film I've ever seen. The animation was amazing. It's not going to be for everyone. It's very bonkers story. It's by Masaki Yuasa, and he did another movie this year called Lou Over the Wall, which I really disliked, but this one I really like. So it's that kind of like absurdism, surrealism that you either kind of go for or you don't go for. And it's about this girl who basically goes on this like all-night bender and just gets super drunk, and it's ridiculous and crazy and bonkers, but it's also like partly a musical, and it's really positive and it's really sweet and funny, and I loved all the colors and the way the animation was, and it's really different. It's unlike, like I said, unlike any other animated film I've ever seen. There's a whole long musical number, which I loved, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So there you go. All right. Now I have for number 20, I have Minding the Gap. And this was an incredible documentary. This is a participatory documentary. This guy, Bingley, he was filmed his friends from a very young age doing skateboarding tricks and maneuvers and whatever. And it follows these three boys as they grow up and become men. And particularly the surprising theme of the movie is how domestic violence impacts these boys' life, the domestic violence of their mothers, and how it affects the kind of men that they become, which is a really unique perspective. Like typically you don't see that perspective in movies. You don't see how domestic violence affects boys. And it was very moving and interesting. And I just really thought it was great. So I have it at 20. Number 19, I have Green Book. I really enjoyed this movie. I think people are wanting this movie to be something that it's not. They're wanting it to be something like The Hate You Give or Black Klansman or whatever, and be like this huge movement movie. That's not what this movie is. This movie is an unlikely friendship story between two people who, were completely different and shouldn't have been friends. And they got to know each other, and I thought it was really sweet, and I thought it was funny, and I thought it was moving, and I really enjoyed the two lead performances. And Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen I thought were great, and I just think there's a spot for those kind of movement movies, but then there's also a spot for me with a smaller story that makes you want to be a better person and a better friend and reach out to people in your life and talk to them and try to form bonds with people that you might necessarily not have that much connection with or that much in common with on first breath. I think that that's valuable. Not everything has to be speaking for an entire race or like a protest movie. This was just a sweet little movie about two people becoming friends. And so I really enjoyed it, and I have it at 19. Number 18, I have Mirai. This is by Mamoru Hosoda, and it shouldn't be called Mirai. It really should be called Kin, because it's about this little boy. Mirai is just a kind of a minor character in the story, but he is really struggling to deal with a new sibling, new sister named Mirai, and all of these people from the past and the future, different things come into his life, magical realism, to teach him to be nice. And it's very like small for an anime film, very intimate, it's very sweet and beautifully animated. And I think that if you have a new child, you will really relate to it, or if you've spent any time around children, you'll really relate to it. It's very sweet, and I really enjoyed it. So I have it at 18. Number 17, I have Won't You Be My Neighbor. This was a really hard cut. The only reason that I didn't have this in my top 15 is just because it is fairly standard. Like there's nothing that's like brilliant in the filmmaking of this movie, but I saw it 3 times because I loved it so much. And I just loved how it built to the moment when he goes before Congress. And that whole scene was incredible to me. That, you get this curmudgeonly congressman who, is not going to listen at all. He hears Fred Rogers, and then he's like, "You've got your funding. You're me." I was like, that was just incredible. And if you'd almost believe that it was too, if you just saw it in fiction, that it was too maudlin, that it wasn't real, but it was real. Like they had the filming. Yeah, that was incredible to me. There were just so many parts that were just so great. And I loved it. So I have it at 17. And number 16 was also another really hard cut from my top 15 list. It's the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. This was based on a book that I loved. They do make some changes, but I didn't care about that. I loved Lily James in the role. Michael Holtzman as Doss, her love interest, this farmer. He was so dreamy. I was a big fan. I loved Penelope Wilton in this. She is so good. It was one of the best performances, honestly, of the whole year. I thought this movie has moments that will make you cry. It has very romantic moments. It has funny moments. It's well filmed, well acted. This is just the kind of movie that I really like. It's a period piece. I loved the ending when she proposes to him, and they have this moment where they are just the two of them, yet they're surrounded by people. I love scenes like that, and I thought they did it so well. And it was just a very heartwarming, lovely story. I loved the book, and I think they did a great job with this movie. So there you go. That is my almost best movies of the year. So get ready for my real best movies of the year. If you guys saw any of these, what did you think? And yeah, let me know. And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you later. Bye.